J.J. Shirade. Reading of the 252 Vaishnava Varta, the biographies of the 252 Vaishnava disciples of Sri Gosaiji. It's day 137 and Varta number 114, continuing the story of one merchant from Rajnagar. Part 1. Once Sri Gosaiji was on his way to Dwarka to have the holy site of Sri Ranchorlaji. Rajnagar and Asurava were on the way, and so Sri Gosaiji stopped at Bailakotari's home. The merchant caught sight of him on his way there and accompanied him to Bailakotari's place. He stayed in the service of Sri Gosaiji from morning until the afternoon. He began to feel very thirsty, and so he went home. He wanted to go and pay his respect to Sri Gosaiji, but felt that he should not go empty-handed. His wife said, "You have earned nothing today, and neither have you brought anything. But you should take something with you." They both looked here and there, and finally found a bad coconut on the floor. The wife told him to take this with him. He did actually take that bad coconut with him. He put it in front of Sri Gosaiji as an offering and bowed down to him. The Vaishnavas who were present there said, "Oh Maharaj, he is deceiving all of us, behaving as if he were penniless. Now he is trying to deceive you too." Sri Gosaiji asked the merchant if what they were saying was true. The merchant replied, "Yes, they are telling the truth. I have savings of 99,000 rupees, but my desire is to have 100,000 rupees so that I can be a Lakeshwar, or owner of 100,000 rupees. Every day I live off 4 annas and save 8. Sri Gosaiji was pleased that he had admitted the truth about himself. Sri Gosaiji told him, "Now you should establish some seva of the Lord in your life. Then your life will be perfected and you will find joy." The merchant said, "Oh Maharaj, please instruct me as to what kind of service I can do that will not cost me a single penny." Sri Gosaiji told him that he could serve Sri Thakurji with his heart and mind, that it would not incur any expense at all. The merchant asked Sri Gosaiji to explain to him exactly how to do such seva, promising to do as he instructed. Sri Gosaiji explained everything to him, the daily services, seasonal seva, and the yearly festivals to be celebrated. The merchant adopted these ways of seva, meditating with a focused mind whilst establishing Sri Thakurji in his heart and serving with great devotion. One day it was a festival, and in his mind he began to prepare sweet rice pudding to offer. He put in a lot of sugar. When he realized how much he had put in, he tried to take some of the sugar out. As he did this, Sri Thakurji caught hold of his hand and said, "You are not spending any of your savings here, so why are you being so mean with the sugar?" The merchant reflected, "Now I should use all of my wealth in Sri Thakurji's seva." He then asked Sri Gosaiji if he could have one Swarupa of the Lord to serve, and Sri Gosaiji granted him the seva. Thereafter he used all his wealth in the seva of the beloved Lord. The moral of this story is Bhav Prakash, that within the path of grace the Lord accepts the embodied soul with exact consideration of their character and nature. In this way, Sri Thakurji is compassionate and most kind to his devotees. Therefore, Vaishnavas should serve the Lord to the very best of their ability and should never turn away from serving the Lord. Thus concludes Varta 114, the story of the merchant of Rajnagar, who was the recipient of Sri Gosaiji's great grace and an accomplished Vaishnava. There is no end to his tale. Continuing on to Varta 115, the story of Vainidas and Damodardas, 2 brothers who are mendicants, as 2 brothers merchants from Surat. Bhav Prakash. These 2 are devotees of Sattvic disposition. In the eternal Leela, their names are Veera, Vainidas, and Dhira, Damodardas. They are both Sakis of Soraseni, who is Sri Vishakaji's Saki, and manifest from her. They are forms of her divine loving sentiment. They were born to one wealthy merchant in Surat. Their father had a cloth shop. Their parents married them off when they were about 11 years old. When their parents later died, they carried on the shop business. Part 1. When Sri Gosaiji was staying at Bailakotari's house in Rajnagar, these 2 brothers had come from Surat to buy some cloth for their shop. They had some business with Bailakotari and so came to Asaruwa to meet him. They both had the sight of Sri Gosaiji and experienced his divine form. They then requested Bailakotari to help them get initiation as Sri Gosaiji's disciples. Baila asked Sri Gosaiji to accept the 2 of them into his shelter, since this was their humble request. He initiated them with the Lord's name, and after staying in Rajnagar for some time, the 2 returned to Surat. Every day in the evening they would go to the Vaishnava satsang there to discuss the Lord's pastimes. One day when they were both in the shop, they thought that it would be good for them to go to Sri Gosaiji in Gokul. They went home, Both of them had wives, and the elder brother Vainidas had 2 sons. Damodar Das had 1 son. The 3 sons were married, and their wives also lived in the home. The 2 brothers passed everything, business and home, over to the sons and announced that they were going to go on a tour of the whole of the Vraja land. With the Lord's wish, we shall come back in 5 to 7 years. Do not worry about us. Keep good care of the house. Having thus renounced everything, the 2 brothers went to Vraj. They went straight to Gokul. It was the time for the Uttapan afternoon Seva. Shri Gosaiji had awoken from his nap. The brothers arrived at this time, and they had the sight of Shri Gosaiji, who asked them, "O Vainidas and Damodar Das, when did you get here?" They told him that they had just arrived. Shri Gosaiji said, "You will not have taken prasad yet." Vainidas replied, "O Maharaj, how could we partake of prasad before having your sight?" Shri Gosaiji invited them to partake of Mahaprasad later that evening. The 2 brothers went and secured a dwelling to live in. They put all their stuff inside and went to have the holy sight of the Lord at the Uttapan Seva time. Then they went to the temples of all the 7 Swarupas and had the holy sight of all those 3 Thakurjis. They had the holy sight of Sri Navneet Priyaji at the night-time service, and then went to Shri Gosaiji's Baitak, where he told them to partake of Mahaprasad. They said, "O Maharaj, you must partake first. We will have some afterwards." Shri Gosaiji had his Mahaprasad and gave the 2 brothers some of his leftovers. Then only they partook. Bhav Prakash. This story tells us that Vaishnava should never partake of Mahaprasad until their Guru first partakes. Part 2. Continued. Then Shri Gosaiji began to give divine discourse. The 2 brothers listened to his every word. Then they requested Shri Gosaiji, "O Maharaj, please now grace us with the Brahmasambandh initiation." After instructing them to fast for 1 whole day, he initiated them in front of Sri Navneet Priyaji. He then performed the Rajbhog Arti and settled the Lord down for an afternoon rest. Then he came to sit in his Baitak. After offering him a donation, they supplicated, "O Maharaj, what should we do now?" Shri Gosaiji told them that they should serve Shri Thakurji. They piped up, "May we please have the holy sight of Shri Govardhanaji and then make a tour of the whole of the Vraja land? But we will do whatever you say." Shri Gosaiji consented and told them that they should start their seva afterwards. The brothers stayed 3 more days in Gokul and then moved on to Srinathadwara. They had the holy sight of Srinathji for 4 days and then set off on their tour. They returned to Gokul, and when it was completed, and then they went to Shri Gosaiji and prostrated before him. Shri Gosaiji asked if they had completed their Vrajayatra, and they confirmed that they had. Shri Gosaiji then gave them the order to make the Lord's seva. Vainidas piped up, "Should we not make his seva when he tells us to, and ask us directly what he wants?" Shri Gosaiji said, "Serve the Lord with all the love in your heart, and he will soon grant you the experience of his presence and thus fulfill your heart's desire." Shri Gosaiji granted them 1 Sri Thakurji's seva, and they got Swarupa, and they got together with the Vaishnavas to learn all the ways of seva. 1 brother would do the cooking and the other would dress and adorn the Lord. Then they would have the holy sight of all the 7 Swarupas every morning, and they would also invite 2 Vaishnavas to partake of prasad every day. After that, they would bathe into seva, and after the Rajbhog lunchtime offerings, they were accepted back as prasad. Then they would feed the Vaishnavas. Only then would they eat. Thus they had a nice regular routine and served with much love. Shri Thakurji began to speak with them directly. One day Shri Thakurji announced, "I am very pleased with you. Please ask something from me." They replied, "By Shri Gosaiji's grace we have everything we need, but we would still like to be able to serve him." Bhav Prakash. Here it is stated that the service of the Guru is even harder to attain than the service of the Lord. Pausing here until tomorrow, when we will continue the story of Vainidas and Damodar Das Das. Sab Vaishnavan ko Jai Shri Krishna. आज के आनंद की जय 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 श्री राधे।